Hey, we're good, PBC Podcast fam. We're starting our episode for a film review. Actually, two though. So here's part one. Part one is on the film A Coded Bias. Now, just to give you a little breakdown of the film, it was a documentary following this woman named Joy. She is a black woman in the STEM field, computer science specifically, coding specifically. She was working on a facial recognition application, some type of software. She realized that it could not pick up on her facial features due to her being highly melanated. But when she wore a white mask, it was able to pick it up. So she took this further to examine whether this inherent bias was expansive throughout AI. And she found this to be true with various different levels. Here's a couple of them. Now, her work actually caused great change in the field of AI, especially with Amazon and their AI. This was further examined throughout the documentary. I wanted to give my personal thoughts. My personal thoughts. And this ties into an episode that will be released soon, AI and God, PPC podcast. You already know the vibes. Basically, I wanted to say that we can only create a functional, ethical, and efficacious AI if we are intentional in our creation of it. Being intentional does not solely mean each person giving their all, it means having the diversity of people to give their all to it. It requires people of different backgrounds, people of different lines of thinking, because to create an AI is similar to is our version of creating what God did to create us. It's creating sentient life that can think for itself. It's creating at least somewhat sentient life that can understand our process of thinking and can comprehend what it means to think. Solely what AI is now is data replication and data analysis. Thinking is beyond data analysis. As I stated in the video, it is not always the ethical and humane choice to follow your prime directive at all times and to follow your programming. You can describe a humane way of thinking as programming from a divine source. Okay, got it. Now, making it from a non-divine source is much more prone to error. Hence, the issues that we experience with AI. To further alleviate this distress and this inherent bias, we must examine. Warning, this is a Christian-based explanation. Due to the fact that God resides in all of us, beyond that a certain divinity and purity resides in all humanity, to make this less Christian specific. A certain divinity resides in each person. The compound nature of various and multiple people allows us each to show this divinity and to imbue AI with this divinity to further combat the inherent biases that we have. Beyond this, the talk of regulation for this is imperative and is a conversation and discussion that should be had much more often. As one of the members in the documentary stated, it is a good stepping stone and a good goal point to have Congress have about at least 3 meetings upon these regulations in the upcoming year. I am unsure to the degree that has already been discussed, as the documentary has been out for a certain amount of time. However, regardless of whatever progress has already been achieved, there is still more progress to be achieved. And to do this, we have to not only open your minds, reference to quiet opening here, you must be open to other people's minds. Because AI is not meant to be from one source. That defeats the entire purpose. The entire purpose is data analysis of such a broad data spectrum that humans would not be able to easily and as efficiently articulate, graph, and accumulate as fast as an AI would. Now, this is partially due to, as referencing the documentary, AI started from a very small group of individuals. Now, their inherent biases are obviously imbued into AI because they are what created it. You can only give into something what you already have. If you have a glass of water, you can only pour into another glass that same water that you have. Now you can attempt to distill it. You can attempt to what we need to do, which is add other sources that can blend with it. But at the end of the day, you can only give what you have access to. And therefore, we can only create an AI that is advanced and articulate to the point of which we are able to articulate to it what we are able to teach it. Referencing the AI that was used for Twitter. Within 16 hours, it had been articulating how to be hateful, be discriminatory. That is what it was given. So that was all it was able to use. To speak more so to the point towards the end of the video, where it had the female AI voice speaking about how, well, the one specific phrase saying that it is not AI's fault that it is this way. That is completely true. If anything, that is about as close to 100% true as we can get with it. Because at the end of the day, we are its progenitors, we are its creators. And as someone who in the future wants to move into the AI field and wants to further enhance the positives so that they fully outweigh the negatives to a point where it can be globally and personally utilized in an efficacious manner, I find this to be a very imperative topic and discussion to be had. Thank you. Let's say PTC Podcast fam. We are here for part 2 of the film review, and it is on the social dilemma. Now, I want to start out with a quote from the show from the documentary that really stuck with me. There are only two industries that call their customers users: illegal drugs and software. Now, speaking as a computer scientist, I understand this quote and it resonates deeply with me because the common tie I find between those is the monopolization and the monetization of addiction. Because just as I stated in the previous section of this video, you can only give what you already have. And what we always have is a need for something. So you can give a need for something. And that is the whole entire premise of what AI is. We have a need for something, we give that need, and then it finds a way to satisfy that. One way of describing phones and mobile devices that I found very intriguing was that it was described as a personal pacifier for our ability to cope with negative emotions, cope with the lack of stimulation, rather than learning those social skills, those attention skills for ourselves. We have a device that actually does it for us. Now, one of the greatest problems in the how should I describe this? One of the greatest problems in the creation of the algorithm for AIs is that it's centered around the incentives and the ambitions of large companies who prioritize self-preservation and focus on self-fixation. Now, self-preservation is an innate human instinct. It is an innate organismic instinct because the presence of life comes with the need to protect your own existence. How does this relate to AI? Because self-preservation, you want to preserve both your life and your way of life, if not enhance your way of life. Now, when we think of like our dream jobs, typically it's running something. But that means there has to be people under you. There has to be consumers. There has to be users. In order for there to be users, there has to be other entities that are being used, that find their self-preservation in being used. Furthermore, that is what these algorithms do. They self-preserve these big companies' idea of success, which is defined as the algorithm's primary directive, through creating smaller versions of success for each one of us individually. What's that talking about? Individually, that feeds into them because our attention itself has become their commodity. They have monetized our addiction to having our attention filled and having a reprieve from from a lower status.